property has been, if the zone change has been approved yet or not. So if it's already zoned for it, then it is what it is. If it's not, is it?
It's across from Country Crossing.
Okay.
That's a farmhouse up there.
Do you know if it's already been zone changed for that?
I don't think so. There's never been a sign up on there or one of the white signs.
Okay. So that one there.
It's still residential.
Yeah, if you have an input on that one, there might be an opportunity for that.
How do we find out more about that?
If you email me, I can send you the packet that has all the information on it. You can look at it actually right after this is over if you want. Usually that's part of the evaluation the planning commission does. So if the road is deficient in any way to support whatever it is you're trying to put in, generally speaking, the planning commission will make that a requirement of the developer to approve. That way, it's not on the county to spend the money from the taxpayer to do the road development or road improvement, but they do have to build it to our specs, because then at some point we would then take over that road for maintenance. Those are the known major projects out there. Any particular questions? Yes, ma'am. Yep.
I wish you were putting my foot on my head. Yes, I did. So, hang on, now I asked if there's questions, and I'm gonna ask questions. So we've got 256 apartments at Heaton Station, and then 268 apartments, St. Petersburg, and I think there was a bunch of, another 416 apartments on Williams Road. They put in the two roundabouts, by the library and Cardinal Cove, and then they put them into the graves, and they had two little bitty lanes that went down there. So now that they've added all these zillion of apartments, I noticed on number K that they're widening the Cardinal Cove roundabout, and then they're going to widen that area in between. Is that the developer that's paying for that, or is that my tax dollars again that are paying for that?
I don't know. I'll have to look that up.
Because the only question I have then is, we talk about the planning commission and how much that's going up. Why wouldn't they have thought about in the middle of it, when they did this, of putting two lanes in on each side, making the roundabouts bigger? Because then I feel like my tax dollars went through all that, and now they already widened the Graves roundabout, so I'm assuming my tax dollars paid for that, and now we're going to put two lanes in between and widen the other roundabout, where I'm assuming my tax dollars are going to continue to pay. Why we can't? I thought planning commission and all this land use that they would have figured. I mean, some of these apartments were probably approved a while ago. I'm baffled.
No, your assumption's correct.
Yeah. So there, you hit on another problem we have that I think with the Bingham County Planning Commission, and that is that we do not consider properties that have already been approved for something and have not yet started when we evaluate the next project. So down the street, there's 6 potential development properties. We'll approve 4 of them for a zone change. Nothing's happened, but it's definitely going to happen. Change. Some of them could be 20, 30 years ago. When we evaluate a particular project, we do current condition traffic study. What is the traffic study right now? We do not consider what the traffic condition is going to be in the future when these other projects start. If they're already approved, they can start at any time. They do not require our permission. So if they are approved to put in apartments here, and they're applying for a 4th one, we don't take that into consideration. I think that's a failure.
What a waste of my tax money.
I mean, for planning ahead.
Any other questions on these projects? So we're going to go into road stuff in a second.
I was just gonna say, although directly the county or maybe the city doesn't support the infrastructure development that should fall on the backs of the developers, I have seen examples where TIF districts that take future revenues from tax increases on the road, or the property that increases in value as a product of the development, that money has a tendency to go toward infrastructure. And I was wondering how much of that TIF money, we've created several TIF districts in Boone County, and I wonder how much of that TIF money actually goes toward infrastructure improvements, because that is tax dollars. Now, it's a circuitous way of paying for tax dollars, but, it's tax dollars nonetheless, because it's on future property value increases that turn around and gets reinvested in the debt.
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that either. I apologize. I will look it up for you. Yeah, I don't, but I will look it up.
With these kids that are happening on anywhere, with what's taking place in regards to like Petersburg 20 or these other developments on Graves Road, is there any type of a traffic study to be able to see what is going to happen when we have 4 buildings, industrial buildings, that are going to be put into an area where there's a number one, a sharp curve in the road, that tractor trailers are gonna be constantly coming on, and already on Petersburg Road, about every single day, somebody is about killed because they're walking on the road. There's no sidewalks, there's no lighting. You know, you put in 286 apartments here, you already have a huge amount of traffic. It's sometimes hard for us to get out at the Liberty Crossing development. Then you're gonna add apartments across from there, and then you're adding more trucking down that lane. Literally, the infrastructure cannot handle that.
So when they do traffic studies, there are a few things that they look at. Obviously, well, what does it look like today? And they look at what's generated off of side streets to know if there's a need for additional signals or signal change, depending on whether it's already there. The other thing they look at is there's just some national, or let me say it, not national, there's industry standard figures that they use for certain types of development. So they'll look at an apartment building and based on how many 3, 2, and 1-bedroom homes, there's just a industry standard figure that they use. Some sort of study or average that says, well, this is how many vehicles it's going to generate for that. It's not gonna be exactly accurate, but it's what they use for estimating what that impact might look like. Same applies to commercial buildings based on what they're trying to do. Oftentimes, especially if it's a smaller commercial building, they can tell planning commission exactly what their commercial traffic's gonna be. We're gonna get X number of trucks for delivery, X number of trucks in export. They already know those numbers. Obviously, it can change, but those things are considered in the traffic study when we do it.
For these apartments, do we know what kind of apartments they are? Is it Section 8 housing apartments? Is it these
No
apartments?
developer will tell you, no developer will tell you that they're building Section 8 housing. They also won't tell you that in 20 or 30 years it will become Section 8 housing.
Yeah. So then your residents lose value from those things.
It is actually, believe it or not, it is state law. They cannot consider the financial impact to the neighbor's property as part of their zone change decision. Sounds dumb, but that is what it is. Conveniently, we have a state legislator here that might can pursue that.
Don't touch that. It reminds me of the bill that we are trying to address in the legislature, like House Bill 18. I got the co-sponsor advocate for protecting landlords and owners. These cities are trying to force them to accept Section 8 tenants. So they no longer have to do that in Kentucky. You don't have to accept a tenant who's getting government money. So at least that protects property owners. So the property rights bill that we do pass.
So we're going to move on to this document right here. It's got a bunch of red writing on it. This is some specific transportation projects here kind of in the Hebron area. Some of these are county projects and some are state projects. So the caveat on all of these is that there's no specific timing right now on most of these. I would say that within the next few years, these projects will all be taken care of. They're already on the list. et cetera. But, they definitely won't all be completed this year. The exception to that is number B, or letter B, Linton Lane. That one is specifically dependent on a grant application that the county is working on, so if that was to fall through, that probably wouldn't make the list. And we don't have to go through every single one here, because you have a copy of the sheet, but I can give you, you can look at this and see Limeberg Road, widening to 3 lanes from KY18 to Gateway Boulevard. I believe that grant application's already been submitted and we feel good about that one, to get federal funds. Lytton Lane, right now, just a planning level design at this point. That application, we're not 100% sure on for that grant for funding. This would be Lytton Lane to 3 lanes from KY 237 to the end. C, D, and E are all multi-use paths. You're gonna start seeing a lot more of these multi-use paths in all the different development projects that come up. The multi-use paths are the big wide ones that people can walk on, ride bikes on, etc. In some areas, it's a really good idea because it keeps bikers off the street, or bicycles off the street. In other areas, like if you look down at Frogtown Road, etc., that footprint requires, when they start to do more work, it requires the government to take more land through eminent domain. So there are definitely some cons to it. So all those 3 are multi-use paths coming up. South Park Drive turn lanes, dual left-hand turn lanes, 237 is in the works. G is a resurfacing project, new asphalt. KY 20 turn lanes, H at Aviation Boulevard, new turn lanes. I is Dulwick and Mineola multi-use path. That's kind of a commercial area down there. J 237 turn lanes at different locations, Conrad, Cooper Path, Limeberg, Barber, and Coral. Those are county projects. Obviously, we collaborate a little bit with the state on state projects, but for the most part, they're state. The county, if the state decides they're going to do something, they let us know, we're informed. We really don't have, I would say we have soft influence in that area, but we don't really have a decision making. We're not decision makers in that. 237 widening, and a roundabout there at Cardinal Cove. 237 Lytton Lane improvement, and KY 20 from Graves Road to 237. M, I gotta look into this one. I had a note to look into that, I didn't. To see how far out that design funding was. The way the state works on their projects, they've got a 6-year plan, so you might see the funding for design and study in the plan, but that doesn't mean that the project's going to start. That's just the funding for study and design. So unless you see the funding assigned, and I do have a copy of the 24 to 26 annual highway construction plan here, so if you guys want any questions about specific state projects, I do have some of that county funding here. And yeah, the others are not started yet, I don't think either, so. And O&P. Any questions on transportation projects? I said I'm just gonna go real high level on those to let you know they're there. If you want anything specific, I can ask about that specific project. Yes, sir.
Letter J, the turning lanes there on county road locations, Conrad Cougar Path and Limeberg. You give a little more information on what those are, because that's right around us.
I'll tell you what, I don't know. But I can find out if there's any design. I'm sure if there is, if it is moving forward, then we've got some level of design documentation there, and I can email to you if you want. Give me your email address before I leave. All right, anybody else?
Can I ask a quick question about something from the past?
We are way past that already.
The other thing is on.
On 18.
Yeah, 18 use, it's like a running joke, everybody's like, who came up with that? Would that have been a state project?
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of folks in the county, something like that we all kind of wait on, what was that all about? Why do we really need that? How is it possible to have a voice on something like that, a state project like that in the future?
I mean, I don't know, I kinda like them, I use them to clean the deer fur off the bottom of my truck. I have no idea, I mean, the state is not very good about holding, public input forums for those kind of things. We are asking for that on some projects like the Frogtown Road one. But a lot of times what the state does, they do an online feedback forum, so then you have to get to know about it in the first place, and then you gotta go on there and submit your feedback. I think part of what that was though is they didn't have the room to expand to create a median in between, and they're trying to prohibit people from turning left across the road. Bill probably could confirm that or deny it. I'd imagine you guys have a lot of wrecks there. Any other road project questions? Again, if you think of something, you got my email in the back, you can send me an email about anything specific, even if it's something I didn't talk about, I'll get the info for you.
Chet, on the Litton Lane, would they utilize what was, presented by Levi Strauss? Or would that be something totally new submitted for Litton Lane to go against the freeway?
You talking about the original Levi Strauss design?
Yeah.
I am not 100% sure on that one. That whole project scope that's there for Levi technically is what they're held to. Anybody that future develops that is held to that unless they go through the whole process again. So theoretically, if we were to start on the project today, it would be consistent with that.
Okay. So if the state wants to do something different than what that was,
That's a county project.
it's a county project, so
Yep.
if the county wants to do it, is the county gonna do it exactly the same way as it currently stands? Or would they have to resubmit and the residents can have buy-in on it? Or bring up questions?
Tell you what, I have a standing meeting with our county engineer and planning commission, and I'll ask him about that and see.
Okay. Thank you.
Any others? We did have some people submit some questions beforehand. This is gonna be a collaborative effort here. We are talking about projects and state legislative update, but really there's a lot of other things that are going on in the county, so it can be related to that too. Somebody was asking about the developments of business here at the firehouse. We kind of talked about what developments are in the works. I will tell you that the specific businesses that come in, sometimes people think that the legislative bodies approve, or the fiscal court approves, or even the planning commission approves specific tenants or owners. We do not do that. The only thing that we approve is land use. Can it or cannot be used for those things? Who actually goes in there? So we say restaurant. It could be a McDonald's or it could be a 5-star steakhouse, we just say, can it be a zone for a restaurant? So we really have no say, and we definitely don't discriminate against people based on what is actually going in there. There are some exceptions. The language of our ordinances does allow us to create specific zoning areas for things like adult entertainment and stuff like that. But for the most part, we don't discriminate. I don't have an update on Grace Road, Hamel on the Bend. I'm not actually sure what that question is. You know what that question was, Jill?
There's a question, like who's moving into those homes, because when you inquire about renting or owning, you get to run around, they don't tell you, they don't give you any additional information.
The county's not gonna be privy to that.
And then they said there was gonna be, like you said, commercial, like a daycare and something else, and I don't think that's happening now. And I don't know if
We couldn't hear you back there.
I inquired to Judge Moore, why aren't those apartments advertised, or are they available? He said that they are not, they've already been booked or filled. So I asked him by whom, and he said, didn't answer that.
Well, we
Or
won't.
wouldn't answer that.
Let's see, I don't even know where Traditions Golf Course is, where is that?
Off of Williams.
Is that an 18-hole course or a course? Is it a private golf course or?
Private.
Or private, meaning, but you go and play it? Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't know what's going on around that, I'll have to look. So, I got a question mark. You know, again, if you know where that is on the map, you can go to the county GIS site, blow it up, click all the surrounding properties around it, and if there's something in the works theoretically that's been submitted, it's public record, it's, all that documentation is there. No idea about the land or lot next to Dollar Tree. I apologize, I had very little time to go through and research all these questions. Why are we not routing through traffic around the city? Theoretically, like what city? You're talking about Florence? Right, Florence. There is a hypothetical plan out there for the, I don't remember what they call that, Boone County bypass, or what do they call that, if you look at a map of Boone County, there's a, I don't have my clicker. There is, if you look like left of that pink spot there was and still is this hypothetical design for a straight super road that goes from 71 all the way up to 275 through the center of Boone County. And it would be a massive project. But the idea there comes from the idea that local traffic should not be on an interstate. Interstates are for interstate traffic. So the idea there would be to create a north-south corridor for local traffic. Problem is, when that goes in there, there's no such thing as saving Western Boone County. It's going to be developed that way. So that's just hypothetical. There's nothing in the works on that per se. I get asked like a couple times a week about Amazon paying their taxes. I will have to look into exactly how much they pay if you want to know. I'm not sure.
I have those answers on those two right there.
Currently,
So we'll go ahead and go through the rest of yours.
I think that's it. Oh wait, no, it isn't. You're gonna take Amazon. You're gonna take Amazon taxes. Question.
I can answer the answer.
Okay. And constable question and I'm not sure what people were talking about when they talked about weather ordinances. Are you talking about like people have to get their vehicles off the street probably for snow removal and all that?
We've got that too.
Okay. And I think you probably have those top two there.
We've got commercial vehicles, yes, sir.
Small chance. Go ahead.
So I need to put some. Just take a look at this first.
Okay.
Good evening. My name's Les Hill. Most of you guys back here, a lot of you guys back here, I know well. Went to church here, grew up here. We have this church. I wanted to give a couple thank yous. One, especially to Jen. Boone County Sheriff's Department, without Jet's help, we wouldn't exist. They approve our finances, they approve our budgets, they approve our cruisers. We wouldn't be here if it was for them. Thank you enough, sir. I mean, we are constantly begging for laws to be changed, and it is, believe it or not, it's almost a daily event. And without good leadership, we'd be lost in the water. And there's a young lady up there named Jill sitting up front. She puts all this on, what I call it video. It's not video anymore, but she makes sure that we get this message out, and I wanted to thank her as well. Our questions were the Amazon. I'm gonna cover the constitutional issues or the constitutional duties of the sheriff as far as, taxes and things like that. And Lieutenant Hall will cover the traffic issues, anything that would deal with that. I say that because those of you that know me, the last time I issued a citation, we still had a ramp. So that's how long it's been since I have had anything to do with traffic. On the Amazon question about does Amazon pay their part of taxes? I want to cover a couple things with that just real quick. Just so you know, we collect about $220 million in property tax, just in Boone County for the sheriff's office. Does anybody, I know some of you guys are really involved in the school boards over and stuff, or school board issues. Does anybody know what percentage of that goes to our schools, back to our schools?
Over 60.
See, I know that it's about 51%. So when you think about that, that is a huge number that goes back to our schools. But I say that to say, I think, I know we have issues with our schools, but they also help us keep school resource officers in our schools, and again, because of our budget, we can have that. On the Amazon portion of it, Amazon had, and this was all I could find. I'm sure there's more there under maybe different names other than Amazon. They had 21 tax bills that totaled $15 million that they pay in property tax. $8 million of that was distributed to our schools. So that's Amazon alone. We collect about 54,560 taxes. And in Boone County, this is how lucky and blessed I feel to live here. We collect about 98% of that. And that's because of you guys. It's only because of these guys. Because I can tell you the rest of the state does not share that. We are very appreciative of it. There was a constable question. We have 3 constables.
Yep.
The constable question was, it asked, do we have constables and why do we have constables and do they have to be, or do they take money, I guess, away from the sheriff's department? And that's a great question. We have 3 constables. They are, by the Kentucky Constitution, we have to have constables. We have 3 of them. Our constables are great. Here in Boone County, they really don't do much. And I do that, and I say that because I'm not sure that everybody knows what vicarious liability is, but the man that pays the bills knows exactly what it is. And that's why they don't, in other counties, you'll find that they have lights, cruisers. It's pretty, you almost have to go through the academy now, which is a 20-week process, and you have to pay for that yourself if you were a constable and wanted to go through that. So that's the reason we have that. But the reason we still have constables is it's in the Kentucky Constitution. We would have them. And again, I think ours, as far as I know, we have not recently had any issues with any of them. So we do a great job. Have you got this number? All right. Any traffic questions? He gets the fun part. Any traffic questions? After he gets through, you're welcome to ask one.
We have no traffic in here, I'm kidding. Good evening, everybody. I will reiterate what Colonel Hill said, as we thank you for everybody being here tonight, Commissioner, Congressman. As a Hebron resident, it's myself, it's actually fantastic to see you guys out here talking, bringing issues to Hebron, because we all know, talk about traffic and things like that, so appreciate your guys' participation. The question is about weather ordinances. We do have different levels of snow emergency when we have inclement weather in the county. So, as you can imagine, you can picture what we do. My name's Chris Hoff, I didn't say, I'm sorry. I'm the lieutenant, I work patrol for the sheriff's office. When it snows, as you can imagine, people don't stay home. They like to come out and crash their cars. So, unfortunately, that puts us in a position where we have to be very responsive to those crashes. So, I will say that, do we go down specific streets looking to enforce parking violations during the weather ordinances? No, we do not. Because generally we're a little more preoccupied with other calls for service given the weather conditions. Whether it's crashes, people get trapped in their cars, they're out of gas, things of that nature. However, I will say that if you do have issues and you feel that your street's not being plowed because of properly parked cars, you can easily contact the sheriff's office, you can contact dispatch. We will send a unit out, I assure you, and we will remedy that problem, whether it's having the owner remove the car, issue a citation, or impounding if we have to. I speak from experience working second and third shift, and when I used to supervise a traffic unit, had a great relationship with Public Works. They would actually contact me directly when they were having issues with certain roads, vehicles blocking, things of that nature. So, I stress to you again, we're generally very busy in that time of when the weather's hitting. It's not that we're ignoring it, but if you contact dispatch or our sheriff's office, we will come remedy the problem very quickly, actually. Because again, everybody wants their street cleared as quick as possible.
Can I add something to that, Chris?
Absolutely.
On the snow emergency, there's only one ordinance that actually gives us the legal right to move a vehicle during the snow emergency, and it's level 3. Level 3 is the only time we can do anything with it. So, we have not had a whole lot of level 3 snow emergencies. I've only been here 36 years, so I'm sure they've had plenty of them before that, but now, it's really, we don't have those very often. So when we just have a little snow under a plow, that really, we don't have the legal right to do anything with it anymore.
Yeah, we'll generally just come out and try to